What's going on, guys? MacDowlin here with a quick farming video. Over the last couple days I ran 100 Crimson Temple maps with blue influence, and I wanted to talk about the tree and how I set that up and some of the results, and then maybe talk a little bit about the market generally and how the price of Divine Orbs has been progressing over the course of the league so far. And so yeah, let's get right into that. Let's take a look at the tree. A few changes since I have moved on to my next farming strat. I did have Growing Horde allocated the entire time. And of note also is make sure that you do not have Singular Focus allocated if you are taking any of these nodes up here. That will goof up your potential to drop maps from the bosses. And then obviously I was running blue for those 100 maps, so you want to switch those points around. And then down here, I did also block Legion and Breach, but otherwise the tree was as you see it here. And the purpose of this was I wanted to smash through these maps as fast as possible. I didn't want to engage with a lot of extraneous league content. I left the Harbingers in because I just think they're too good to pass up. But other than that, I tried to just steamroll these maps, get to the boss, kill it, pick up the loot, and get out. And I think in that sense, it worked very well. And so yeah, we're going up here and grabbing all of the map modifier nodes and then as much of the quant and rarity stuff as we can get. As I said, Harbingers, and we've got shrines going to make things a little bit easier because we are going to be spawning a lot of Delirium Mirrors. And so that is about it, really. It's a very simple, straightforward tree. And so yeah, let's throw some map footage up and we will talk about the rest of the stuff. A couple of caveats here. I do not approach farming strategies with the same level of rigor that you would see from, you know, a Grimrow or a Firegrass or other folks like that that are really getting into the numbers and keeping detailed information, spreadsheeting it out, stuff like that. That's not the way that I approach the game, and I think that what they do is a very difficult and time-consuming, stressful thing that I'm not willing to engage in, so I'm really glad that folks like that exist. But I still think that it's valuable for a less detailed, sort of anecdotal set of data, just to add to your, you know, the composite of the content that you're viewing. And so this is just my experience. I'm not making any claim that I'm not going to be giving you some number, some divines per hour, or, you know, the percentage better that one altar is from the other. I'm just going to tell you how it felt, some of the important stuff that dropped, and then let you know whether or not I'm going to keep doing it. And I would guess that based on having seen the tree and the changes I've already made, you can already sort of figure out that I'm not sticking with the blue altars. So, having said all of that, let's talk a little bit about the experience more generally here first. So, in terms of the chill level, how fun is it when I'm blasting as compared to strand maps with those breaches that I was doing before and all of that excitement? The blue altars have two big problems in this department, I think. The first is the mobs are just awful. They take forever to spawn, and it doesn't seem like it's a standardized timer. Like, it's not 2 seconds or 2.5 seconds. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it feels like sometimes they spawn right away, halfway across the screen, and shoot you. Other times it takes them like 3 or 4 seconds to spawn, and they're right on top of you. It seems very random in that sense. I hate it. Can't stand it. As opposed to the red ones, you just click the altar, they spawn. Yep, there's a couple mechanics like the meteors and whatever that can get annoying. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. And a lot of the stuff, if you're just killing them and moving on, they're just not a big issue. So I definitely prefer the red in terms of the mobs. But then another thing is, when you're farming the blue ones, you're specifically looking for those divine altars. And so it's not just that you have to like glance at the altars and see what's on there. You have to make absolutely sure that you're not misclicking or skipping one of these divine ones. And especially given that I never saw one. In the 100 maps that I did, I never encountered either a boss or a global divine mod of any kind. And so that element of it, I don't like either. My understanding is with the red altars, you can get some good divination card drops, but I just assume that those are, you know, more rare than the divine altars, probably exceedingly more rare. And so they're not playing on my mind in the same way that when I'm just running through the map and the blue altars are there, every altar I'm thinking, is it going to have the divine thing? I'm making sure, does it, you know, Am I misreading the mods, etc.? It slows it down. I didn't care for that as much. The red is both smoother in terms of the combat gameplay experience of running through the map, and it's also less stress in terms of, generally speaking, obviously you could get one of the crazy card rewards and miss it. Fine, I understand that. But generally speaking, the biggest mistake you're going to make on a misclick with a red altar is, I don't get 15 chaos that map. And so that is what I'll say about that. In terms of loot, some highlights, and again, I didn't keep a spreadsheet here, but out of the 100 maps, I got 2 raw divine orbs, I got 6 fracturing shards, I got a ton of conqueror maps, I got 1 synthesized map. 3 times I encountered the grand eldritch currency as an altar reward, and those were pretty lucrative. I think I got more than 20 each time that happened, so all told, that was probably more than a divine worth of those. I also encountered 3 of the gilded scarab altars, and those were pretty exciting and also lucrative. Maybe not as much as the grand eldritch currency, but still pretty fun to encounter. But that was about it. Otherwise, there wasn't a whole lot of stuff on the ground that I was interested in picking up. And what everyone has said about the blue altars is true. There's just a ton of junk. And it is true that I think Firegrass is the one that said this, or that pointed it out, or at least it was the person I was watching who said it first. There is the advantage of, with the blue altars, being much more able to click the quant options. And I did that, and we were running pack size, and I think that had an effect on the extra drops we were getting. But we're not really farming league content, and in Crimson Temple, I feel like for most maps, I was only seeing 4 or 5 altars. And so I just don't know how much that of a difference that is going to make in terms of, the loot that you're pulling out of each map. I could be wrong there. But an interesting thing that happened was I finished the project, and then I just kind of switched out of all the stuff and went to the tree that you saw before I told you about the small modifications at the beginning of the video here. And I just started alching and going with nothing on the map device. I just reallocated stream of consciousness and just started blasting. And within 20 maps, I had dropped 2 more divine orbs, 2 fracturing shards, and a couple conqueror maps. And if that trend continues, if you add in all the chaos orbs that you're going to be picking up from the red altars, it seems like if you don't hit one of the big ticket things with the blue, it's just not there. At least not for me. And so I feel like I'm going to probably stick with the red altars unless the price of divines gets much, much crazier than it currently is. One thing that I will note that's just all positive, though, is map sustain was fantastic. I ended up with 83 Strand maps and 76 Crimson Temple. I had mostly Crimson Temple favorited, and then obviously I had 1 slot of Strand. And so we well over-sustained there. And I don't care. I wasn't hoping to do a 1-for-1 and get 100 Crimson Temple. I was just hoping to get 100 or more maps back that I wanted to run, and we well exceeded that. And so I was very happy about that. And then in terms of just sort of comparing and contrasting again, with the blue altars, there's this additional sort of issue, I guess, where you're not getting any respec currency, or at least way less. And you're just not getting as much of the bubblegum stuff as you are with the red altars. And especially since I like to mess around with my tree quite a bit and, try different stuff or reallocate these 2 points, I actually go through a lot of orbs of unmaking. And the whole time I was running the blue, I didn't need them at the time because obviously I wasn't changing the tree mid-farming strat. But I did notice that, I'm just out of these and they're not replenishing. And generally speaking, the red altars, quality of life-wise, I guess we'll call it, or just bubblegum currency generally, I underestimated, even at this point in the league, how much that convenience factor matters. And so that's, I guess, all I'll say about that. And then as far as the invitations that you're getting for slamming these maps, because that's one of the things that I was hoping to do, was just kind of real quickly get through, pick up several of the big invitations and sell them. The blue, the small invitation, is worthless. It sells for nothing, whereas the red ones sell for 20C, and the price is basically the same for the, you know, the Screaming Invitation or the Incandescent Invitation, except I think the red ones are valued a little bit higher still. And so that's worth keeping in mind, is that for every, essentially for every 20 blue maps or whatever that you run, you're just losing 20C straight away, because you're not getting that invitation, the small one that people want. And then again, if it's 10 or 20% more for the red Incandescent Invitation, then you're also losing, from my perspective at least, I'm losing that profit just by selecting the blue. And I don't remember, I think I got through 4 or 5 full rotations, because we're taking the node where you get the chance for the map to award double progress. And so that's a considerable amount. You're talking half a divine in Chaos Orbs, just about. And you're also talking about, what, again, whatever the overage is, or the under, whatever, on the big invitations. And so I think that's worth keeping in mind at this point. You'd have to watch these prices and, you know, keep track of that. But, and then I guess the last thing I'll talk about is just divines in general. So I was doing most of these maps on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and there was a small crash, I guess, in the price of divines. They've dropped all the way down. I think the cheapest one that I bought was for 215C. And now they're going back up. And I don't know if they're going to stabilize at about 240 to 250, but I'm hoping that that's the case, because I think that's the sweet spot. Regardless of, I see a lot of people complaining at how much chaos it costs to get a divine orb. I think at about 240C, for me personally, it feels like the ratio of how much time it takes me to get that chaos and then buy the divine is better than it was in previous leagues. I.e., I feel like it's easier to get 240C and buy a divine orb now than it was to get 150, 160C to buy an exalted orb a few weeks ago. And so in that sense, I feel like I'll make decent income just from, you know, the chaos orb to divine conversion, if I stick with the red altars and the trend that happened over this, you know, Christmas situation continues. If they jump way back up north of, you know, 290, 300, then not only is it way less convenient to trade for them, but also then it gets back into where I'm just not really sure. It's probably a wash, right? Because if you do enough of the blue altars, eventually you're going to get a divine altar. And so then it kind of comes down to how many maps are you going to play, and are you going to get lucky? Versus right now, I still think that for most folks that are not going to run 500 or more maps in the league, maybe 600, 700, if you're not going to run that many, then you're probably better off just sticking with the red, because otherwise you're putting a lot of your league progress into a gamble. And I'm sure other content creators have said this, but I just figured I would throw my hat in the ring, and I did the maps, and so I may as well share the results with you guys. And that is about all I've got for you today. I'm going to move into, I think, one more farming strategy, and then probably move into another build here pretty soon. I think I've got 15 divines in the bank, and I haven't really gone through and sold any of the other stuff that I made from the project. And so out of those 100 maps, we definitely pulled, you know, 20 to 25 divines easy, and maybe a little bit more once I go through and sell all the delirium orbs and just the other junk that I wasn't going to go through in price and stop and use the bulk sell tool and deal with all of that. So I estimate that when I'm done with all of that, I'm looking at, you know, about 20 to 22, maybe a little bit more, 25 divines from the whole project, which is fine. It's not insane, but I'm perfectly happy with that. And so, yeah, I'm rambling at this point. So if you found any of this interesting, please do hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. I appreciate you.